Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm Alex Whiteley. I never get tired of that music. That's Cosmic Rays. That is Charlie.
I was
Adlard's
just going to say, what band was that?
Yeah, Cosmic Rays.
Cosmic Rays.
Yeah, that's Charlie Adlard's band.
Oh,
yeah.
right,
So
okay.
Shane Chebsey sings for them, and me and Shane got back, and I was like, "Yo, you guys got any like music I can use?" And he was like, "Yeah, take your pick." And I just really like that bit. I thought it sticks now, doesn't it?
Royalty free.
Yeah, I love it.
Happy days.
So today I'm sat with a good friend of the show, Kevin Horak. We're in Nerdy Cafe on Mardle. I've never recorded here. I spoke to Tom when this place first opened, but as like a place to interview, I think it's a great place. We were talking about just before we hit record how it gets quite exciting in here. You know, families crowded around the table playing board games.
I think it's a really good place. The first time I came in here, I was just walking past with a friend late at night. And actually, do you remember, I think it was the 70s, Bob Ross, who did the joy of painting.
Yeah. You tell what it... No, that's... I nearly went wrong with that one.
Sure where you were going with that.
Yeah.
But the joy of painting, Bob Ross, I remember it was a stoner's dream, this thing, in the 70s. And then I watched it for the first time not so long ago and just fell completely in love with it. And I was walking past, I noticed there was a Bob Ross board game in the window. And so I thought, I'm going to buy that for Lauren, for my wife. I thought, I'm going to buy that. And I came in here and had a look around, and I just thought, God, this is an amazing place. And so I ended up writing a lot of my book in here. So, yeah, great place. But
great memories. So when you obviously, for people that don't know, you're author, writer of Mildred and the Crazy Cat Lady, and amongst other books, which I love how we try and fit them into the show by being family friendly.
We'll try.
How to be a gym banker and a driving banker. Yeah. Although we could just say it and bleep it out. That'd be quite funny because I always find that comical. But so when you do spend a lot of time in here and you're trying to figure things out in your head, you've got problems to solve. Sometimes maybe you've got a drought. You're trying to find the right words to say. How does it feel to be back in this place, knowing that you've been so many trials and tribulations? You know.
Well, I think this was an incredibly difficult book to write because the first one was released just before the first edition was released just before the lockdown, and so as a consequence all events were cancelled. There was nothing that could be done with it, etc.
Pictures.
And so I then worked with a new editor, and she'd done a lot of screenwriting for the BBC, and she got in touch with me and said, look, I love this book, but have you thought about doing this and this? And so we did a complete rewrite of it, rebranding, it's completely reworked, and it's a lot pacier than the original version, so I must concede it is a lot better, this second edition, than the first.
The way I see this is, right, and this is a guy who just makes like little 15-minute vlogs and stuff, it's like, it's a really long edit. Like, how many times you have to go back and reread a chapter, do something, then reread it again just to see how it flows?
I don't know the answer. It was so many.
Thousands.
It was so many times because, first of all, you were working from an original manuscript from the first edition, which is never ideal. You'd hope that your first edition would be perfect, but because of the lockdown, we decided to rework it. So then it was with the editor for some months, and that went 3 months behind schedule. And then when it came back, I was still finding errors with it and some continuity problems, and it's the simple things sometimes that you want a comma and there's a full stop, and it just things like that. Yeah. And so then going through the typesetting process with Dan, who did the typesetting for me, it took months. It's effectively 8 months behind schedule.
So Mildred the Crazy Cat Lady was the first version of this book, and you must have really loved this IP that you made to be able to go, we need to rewrite this, we need to restructure it. You know, it's got to be a real passion there, right?
But yes, there is, because it is a great story. It's a lovely story, and of course it's set around here. It's set in Shrewsbury, and of this lovely innocent lady called Mildred, who gets given this a cat by a complete stranger on the condition that she joins the local cat club. But it's no ordinary cat club, and so it's this league of extraordinary women who have met behind closed doors for thousands and thousands of years. So it's very much about good and bad forces, and so it's very much a fantasy
So if you're listening to this and you're from Shrewsbury, you love Shrewsbury, you like cats and you like adventure stories,
this is kind of for you. If none of that ticks the boxes, then we've got it all wrong and we'll have to write it again.
And it's independently written by a local author as well. It kind of ticks all those boxes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, hopefully this version is going to do well. We're really throwing everything at it.
I do feel for you. I felt for you, and we were speaking to authors just before. The last interview I just did was with Carrie Hughes, and we were reminiscing about how we met in House Coffee in Colham, and we sat and we were like planning Wellbeing Festival and how the biscuit was going to fall into the fold and what we were going to do, and then it just stopped.
Well, in fact, I know Carrie, and in fact we've talked about doing festivals together, and so. I think she's going to support this book, and I'm going to support her festivals and things like that. Good.
And that's the beautiful thing about Shrewsbury. You may roll your eyes at it, but like if you listen to this show and you listen to it regularly, you will know. You'll realise I'm not actually talking about my backside. There seems to be a natural, organic need to sort of collaborate with others in Shrewsbury. It's always people working together. Even if you're a rival of someone, or they got a rival business, you will work together and trying to help each other.
It's such a great community, and I really do think that people have really pitched in to kind of help me, and hopefully I help them with their various bits and pieces. And so it is a community.
So the point I was trying to make earlier when I mentioned Carrie is obviously everything was ready, steady, stop. So you released the first edition of this book, and you couldn't do signing tours, you couldn't go and do readings, you couldn't do anything massive with this first edition of the book. Do you feel like the second edition wouldn't exist if it was for the pandemic?
Yeah, that's true. So you try and take something good out of what was a terrible situation for everyone.
Yeah.
And having now spent all of this time working with a professional, and also having time to think about it, that's why I have to concede that this new version is far more superior to the original. And had there not been a pandemic, then there was a tour all planned and all sorts of things was all cancelled, and the chances are it never would have been written. And so
just gone, we'll just cut our losses. It was just what it is, what it was. But I feel like you didn't have a fair roll of the dice because of the pandemic. So this is where we
I don't think anyone did, even in this place. Everybody, the amount of people I know who lost their businesses and affected their health and such like. It was a difficult time for everyone. So I'm taking a positive out of it. We've got this superior book, and so I'm just doing deals with everyone at the moment.
Yeah, because we were on the phone for a good hour like last week or something. I was trying to help you out with connections and places you can go and network and meet new people and stuff. Of course, like people that I know, I can help you out with. We get you on some podcasts and stuff, but like the festivals is a great thing, and you've been doing that, haven't you? Been going.
I'm talking to Carrie. I'm also talking to the Shropshire Events Company, Beth, about doing some events with them. A very good friend of mine owns the Shropshire Gin Company, based out of Shrewsbury, called Tiger Gin.
We need to come on the show, by the way. We need to talk about some Tiger Gin, so somebody poke him with a stick.
Well, Jeff, I know you're going to listen to this because I'm going to make sure you do. You need to get on. The most awarded gin brand in the world.
Yeah, wow.
Seriously, most awarded gin brand in the world, and it's based here in Shrewsbury. And so, yeah, we'll get him on. So, but Jeff and Vicky from Tiger Gin have been very helpful and supportive towards this as well. And in fact, Vicky, Jeff's wife, was one of 4 proofreaders that I had, and she,
really?
And she read the whole thing in like I think a day and a half, and it's just over 141,000 words. It's
incredible.
Incredible
that
speed.
Is incredible.
So, so hopefully that means she enjoyed it.
When it comes to someone that's going to proofread for you, or you're going to give them, be like, test this for me. Is it important to have someone that will tell you it sucks when it does?
Yeah, that's really important. The worst thing is when you're writing something, when you're creating something, there's a chance that you're going to think it's brilliant. Otherwise, you wouldn't write it. The reality is, it probably isn't.
Usually, it's the way around for me. This is going to be terrible. This is going to be awful. Actually, no, Alex, it's not too bad. Okay,
well, but you wouldn't persist with it if you thought you were onto a loser, if you didn't think that people were going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And so from the 4 different proofreaders that kind of went through it, I said, you must be honest. And so as a consequence, what came back was lots of handwritten notes. How
dare you!
A few fist fights. And, so, you get lots of handwritten notes, or maybe try this, try that. And that's really what you want. And, you need that honest feedback. You should never tell an author it's good, or even if you're a composer, musical composer in a band, and say, yeah, I think this stuff's great. When really you think it's not.
Who was it that said to me, oh gosh, I think there was a writer I was speaking to on USOC actually, and they were saying like, if you're going to ask someone to look at your thing and they say, oh, it's all right, don't ask them again. Because they haven't got they haven't understood what you're asking. Like if they just go, yeah, it's okay. You need that kind of feedback, don't you? That kind of
There's an up and coming local author who's asked me to look over his work, and generally speaking, you'll find that authors won't do that because there's always a danger that it crosses with something that you're doing. And then if you've read somebody else's manuscript and suddenly something similar comes out and something you've written, potentially it's a lawsuit. So generally, authors don't, although supportive of each other's works when published, or prior to publishing, they often don't like to look at these things.
It's a bit like there's I like My Big Bang Theory. Don't mock me. I think it's a great show. But there's an episode where,
except for the one with Indiana Jones. Is that the way you're going? Is that where you're going?
No.
Right.
That
completely ruins that film.
Completely did. Yeah. But there was one bit where Sheldon looks at somebody else's Crypt Keys work, I think it was, and it's like miles better than his work, and it really knocks his morale for a bit, and it really affects him. Like, so, not saying that you're going to automatically just pick up someone else's work and it's a million times better than yours, but it. I suffer from imposter syndrome, right? Genuinely, when I'm making my things, I think it's going to be terrible. People are going to hate it. Yeah. That's just how my process is, right? So, like, if I read something, I'd be like, "Oh my god, it might really hurt to my creative process if I thought somebody was like just a million times better than me."
I think initially it hurts, but then you just up your game, and that's all you can do. So when somebody reviews your books and say that they hate it, do you take that personally? And initially you kind of think, but you can't, because I don't think there is a perfect book that exists. I don't think there's a perfect piece of music that exists.
Apart from the intro to the Shrewsbury Biscuit.
Yes, which was very excellent. Yes, very excellent. Cosmic what?
Cosmic Rays.
We'll give them a plug again.
Yeah.
And I just don't think these things exist. And if they did, it would say a lot about us and society, that we're all very much cloned and the same. And so the sort of music that I listen to, like your friend in Vermont,
Tom Bruno,
yeah, Tom, and I love listening to metal, thrash metal, and such. I have done ever since. I was probably about 12 years old. And my fiance can't bear it, and so it's the same thing. So she would say, "What is this
garbage?"
Yeah. What is this that you're listening to? Particularly if I put on something like Cradle of Filth or something, and she just, it really destroys her. And what is it? But I love it. And so in that respect, if somebody gives you a really bad review or says that, I'm not going to read anything by this author again, well then, okay. But you kind of have to take that, because then otherwise we would all be very similar people.
Do you have to be listening to a certain thing or doing a certain thing while you're writing to get a particular result? Oh, yeah. This is a death scene. Cradle Filth's going.
I do, because music is very important to me. I had my own record label for 11 and a half years before I sold it, and I've always been very, very passionate about the music that I listen to, whether it's rock, hard rock, punk, all in that sort of sphere. And so, not so much with this new book, but with the first edition, I'd write a few thousand words and mentally look forward to having a break and putting on tunes. And that's what I used to do. I'd do that for an hour, get back writing again, and so I'd always have kind of.
So you can't listen to music
breaks
while you're writing? Does that slow you down?
No, it does. I mean, even in this place that we're in Nerdy, they have background music on, but it's not necessarily what I would listen to. So if I'm in here writing, I can just switch off. in the same way that sometimes I take work into pubs and sit in the corner like the weird guy and just writing away while everyone's having a good time. But I'll just sit in there and write. And often people say, how can you do that with all this noise? Well, I can just switch off.
Yeah.
Until I've had 4 or 5 pints, and then I might get involved.
I've been in Wetherspoons before, and this was in Shrewsbury.
Really?
Yeah. What? And there was a couple of guys with like a 2-screen setup. They brought stuff in with them, and they were just cracking away. And I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's great. They had like the laptops on the stands and everything. They were doing some sort of coding.
I've always quite liked spit and sawdust pubs, and the only downside of that is that if you're sitting in the corner with a laptop, you kind of create attention. And goes, well, who's this guy? Who's
pretentious idiot.
Yeah. But there's a pub not far from me. I won't name it, but when I started going in there initially, they thought I was undercover police. Because I just sit in the corner and I'm making notes. Well, I think if I was undercover police, I'd probably be a little bit more
discreet. Just look at the guy at the bar, nod, and then take a note. There's probably ways of doing that too.
I mean, at some stage, I think over the years, because I enjoy a drink, I think over the years that I must do a book on pub culture because of all of the characters.
It's got to be done.
All of the characters I've met over the years, some good, some not so good. All these intricacies of all these,
There's a great scene in the movie The Big Short with Brad Pitt where he's on the phone and he's like, okay boys, you now made $100 million and stuff, and he's in a pub in the UK and there's a load of blokes at the bar. They're like, 100 million, yeah, whoa, we'll go on. Like, and he's just like,
I don't think I've seen that. I know of it. I must make a point of having a look at that.
I'm a big, huge Steve Carell fan, but I watched this, I was like, that's not Steve Carell, because he used to be an idiot in The Office and 40-Year-Old Virgin, but at the same time he's still brilliant.
Did you prefer him to Ricky Gervais in The Office?
Yes, I did. I I think America took The In-Betweeners, just destroyed it. I thought it was terrible. They've done it time and time again, but with The Office, they absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I love the American Office.
What's the show that was set? I think it was in Liverpool, all centred at Shameless. Was it Liverpool?
Manchester.
Yeah. And I watched 2 versions, 2 episodes of the American one, and didn't get it at all.
No,
didn't find it funny at all.
But this is why I like writing a book about pub culture. Kind of fits in with that, because it's kind of like you kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because you can go, oh yeah, we're going to take the In-Betweeners, we're going to make it American. It just wouldn't make sense. Yeah. But if you had a bit of context to that, the bit of glue that sticks it all in together, then it might kind of make sense.
So the Americans made a version of the In-Betweeners?
They did, yeah. It flopped. I think they did a season of it.
They might not have got it.
Yeah, and
was it the same sort of crude?
No, I think they obviously. I think they must have sold it to some company to make. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they get it right. Sometimes we get it right. I mean, they also did Impractical Jokers over here as well. They did like 2 seasons of that, and that didn't, because they didn't have the same sort of friendship as the guys did in America. It didn't quite work. They had Roisin and a couple of others just messing around, and it didn't kind of hit the same level. Whereas the guys in America, they can't. I mean, I know Joe Gatto has just left. So I was like, what? But there's certain things you can't replicate. Like years and years ago, there's no way you could have taken Only Fools and Horses and done that in America. It wouldn't have worked.
No, it
or Cheers and then done it over here.
Because I never really got American humour. I always felt that it was kind of way behind ours in terms of the style.
Also forced as well.
Yeah, but then some years ago, when we kind of evolved from The Simpsons to like Family Guy and American Dad, they're brilliant, and it almost comes across as British humour, but not. And so there's been a definite swing change.
A lot of influence from like Monty Python's and the Fast Show, all these kind of things that are growing up, Harry Enfield and all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to The Office, the guys that were writing that just nailed it. I think it was more about sort of not realizing you're being an idiot, like kind of the same sort of thing that Ricky Gervais was trying to do, but actually sell it. Yeah, I'm not saying Ricky Gervais is a bad writer at all. I think it's great, but I think it just worked better the way they did it.
Yeah, and Stephen Marchant, I think, was the co-writer.
Stephen Marchant,
yeah, and very annoyingly, he seems to be popping up all over the place, and they're even doing Kenko coffee adverts. And
all right, you want to buy some coffee?
and it's just, man, you've made your money. Just stop doing these adverts.
He was an X-Men. I was like, wow, okay. He was in Logan.
I've not seen it because I must admit I'm not really into that kind of thing.
Yeah, old man Wolverine. We've obviously we've spoken about Mildred before.
Yeah.
What is so different about this second? If say someone's bought the first edition, what would you say to someone that will make them go out and buy the second?
Well, first of all, the size of it has changed because the original one was an oversized, was an A5 book, so it's now been scaled down.
Stick it in your purse, ladies. Sorry, that was really, really sexist. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Guys,
like cruise. Yeah, I know a few guys.
Put it in your hip bag, your satchel.
I know quite a few guys have man bags. So it's been downscaled. So now it's an average size paperback. But say the pace of it has completely changed. It's a lot darker than the first, which is why it's still a young adult upwards book. There are some themes in it which are, say, quite dark and almost quite unnerving, I think. So that's why the age group is what it is. But there was also an animal world in the first edition, and that's all been cut out. And so it's more focused on the characters, but it's at a much faster pace than the original, and
they're more streamlined.
It is, and there's new chapters. The whole first two chapters are completely brand new, completely changed, and the bad guy in it, Duat, there's a lot more about his origins and where he's come from, and about the various bloodlines between good and bad forces. So it took a lot of research.
Is this leading up to something? The second edition, is it leading up to something else that you can talk about? That you're allowed to talk about?
I'm not sure allowed's the right word because I'm not sure anyone really cares at the moment. But,
I'm sure they do.
So, I've started now writing notes for the next one, which will be the sequel. But whether that's written or not will depend on whether this first one does okay. And then, 2-3 years ago, I put together a few thousand words on a story that I really want to write, and I'm going to pick that up again, and that's very much an adult book, and actually writing a very dark comedy about the cocaine business, and to try and make anything slightly amusing out of that is a challenge within itself.
Yeah. Oh, Shameless did all right with it.
Yeah, and and this is we've got 4 lovable characters, and they end up becoming the largest importers of cocaine in this country without even knowing they're doing it. So it's a very dark,
like a Lock, Stocky type vibe to it.
Yeah, it's quite brutal in places. But again, actually studying cartels, studying drugs and how they're manufactured. In fact, I spoke to a police officer friend of mine and just said, look, I'm leaving data all over the web at the moment about drugs manufacturing and cartel. Do I need to formally write to the police to say I'm doing this? And she went, no, it's all publicly available. I never got that in writing from her, though, thinking about it. But also there's ties in with sort of 1% motorcycle clubs as well, and so many hours researching the 1%.
So is it more like a Breaking Bad type vibe then, if that's what you're going for? Is it Breaking Bad in the UK?
It's creating. It's a new type of drug, a strain of cocaine, and I'm just trying to. Well, Breaking Bad was just such a good series. It doesn't really go into... Breaking Bad really went into the manufacture of the product. This isn't going to do that, but it is going to have a knock-on effect about the problems of addiction as well. So it's quite a dark story, but there's some very dark...
So this is an idea you've written down on an exaggerated Post-it note and put it in the corner for a rainy day, right?
It's already a few thousand words, but I've been meaning to pick that up, and... again, because that's a story that I really want to write, but we needed to get Mildred done first, and it's just taken a lot longer than I would have hoped.
You must feel a little bit, what's the word, liberated now. Now you've done Mildred justice, and it must have been like weighing like a bowling ball on your chest that you need to do this right. Now that it's done, you must feel free, right? Or do you just want to?
I felt quite liberated years ago, but that's a different story. Yeah, it's not. But the thing is, I don't think any author will ever say, "Yeah, I'm 100% really happy with this." And it's a great story. It's thousands and thousands of hours of work and research has gone into it. But ultimately, is it the sort of thing I might pick up again in a couple of years and then try something else with it? We'll see, but hopefully not. And so, yeah, it does feel almost like a relief that it's now done. And so the pre-sale, because it's released on the 26th of March, so the pre-sale is already available on WHSmith and Waterstone, so I'm very pleased about that.
Are you going to reach out to some of the independent bookstores around the Penguin Books and all these kind of places?
Yeah, in fact, I'm doing some of that today.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, two birds with one stone, speak to that old Whiteley guy and then go and give them up some
I'm off to flog some books,
yeah. What about some of the market stalls, things like that? Is there any idea to sort of, because they have a great market, then they set up in Shrewsbury here, and I know many places around Shropshire, like...
Do you mean the market, as in the market hall, or actually in the square?
Yeah.
Actually, I've not looked into that.
Maybe a good idea. Books, buy your books. Can we get your book?
Loudspeaker.
You like cats?
I still think if I can do something with Tiger Gin, and so people get a free gin if they come and see me, then I'll definitely sell the books. So, in fact, Jeff, pay attention.
Yeah, we definitely need to speak Tiger Gin. I like talking about stuff like that. I reached out to the Salopian Brewery last year, and they were like, "Yeah, we want to come on the show," and it just never happened. This thing happens all the time. Right? I have these ideas, and I write to people, and go, "Let's do this thing," and then all the stuff gets in the way. And
it's actually when you. I mean, you know so many people, but when you actually look around and get into the community, there's actually some really fascinating things going on.
Yeah.
Which people don't even realise, and so
I always explain it a bit like an iPad. Like what you see, looking at, I've got a bird's eye view of Shrewsbury, and I was on my friend Jim Salverson's podcast the other day talking about the biscuit and hyperlocal podcast, and I was talking about how, imagine you're looking at Shrewsbury on an iPad and you just pinch in. And then pinching a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. That's kind of what the Shrewsbury Biscuit kind of does. We kind of get into all the nooks and crannies of what's going on around town.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like I've got Phil who's helping me out at the moment. I think he's gonna be with me tonight for Sam Pooley Stride's Seas of the Moon 2 in Wem. But I feel like we need to go and just canvass the town. Just give people my cards, book in some dates, set up a microphone in town square, whatever it is, just to let people know we're here.
I think you should. Maybe we should do something together in the square.
Yeah,
we could totally tie something.
Maybe we should
up
do a competition.
Go on.
Like and share competition. Win a signed book from Kevin Horak.
I'm going to be doing that because we have a Mildred the Crazy Cat Lady Facebook page, which there's a few thousand people on now. So I'm going to be doing stuff on there. As well, and can be doing giveaways, and
nice.
Hopefully we can get.
You got a great Instagram, by the way. I love the Instagram. You find a great picture of a cat, or it just appears.
I think I've only got 200 followers on that. It's
I love it. Though.
Hard work getting people to follow you on Instagram.
Guys, if you're listening, go on Instagram now. I know we've got a few friends that listen to the show that are on Instagram. Type in Mildred the Crazy Cat Lady. Give it a follow, because there's always some sort of pun or some cat.
Yeah, and if they put a hashtag saying Shrewsbury Biscuit, then I'll know that's where they come from as well.
Hashtag Shrewsbury Biscuit. Make sure you do that. It shows how much reach we've got. Imagine all six people.
You spoke then. You sound like you were introducing an adult film.
Yeah. Mildred the Crazy Cat Lady. She's a hell of a bird. Oh, God. So what I wanted to talk to you about, actually, because it's something that we've brought up many times, but there's something that's happened in between now and then that's blew my mind a little bit. We talk about movie or TV adaptations of books and things, right? And one thing I always brought up to you was Jack Reacher and Tom Cruise, right? It used to drive me crazy, those films.
I remember you saying, yeah.
But they've just done it justice, absolute justice on Amazon. Have you seen the TV adaptation, the new one of Jack Reacher?
No, I've seen it plugged, but I've not seen it.
Wow.
Really?
Wow. They literally went in, they literally again, like an iPad, zoomed in, got all the details right, and they did it perfectly.
So this isn't Tom Cruise then?
No. It's, did you ever watch, I've forgotten his name, did you ever watch Titans? No. He's a big guy. He's about 6'2".
Yeah.
Fair haired guy. Hutchinson. What's his name? Gosh, I've forgotten his name.
I'll
I think it's John Hutchinson. I think his name is. I don't know. He's very good though. Very good.
I'll have a look at that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly, the thing is, in regards to this sort of story, if an adaptation is ever made, so the lady who helped me with the editing, I said, because she's a screenwriter for the BBC, and said, I think this would make a fantastic picture. But you've just got to be a little realistic that if anyone was ever going to invest in a project like that, you've got to have X amount of book sales behind you.
Yeah.
Also, from an investor's point of view, they want to know if it's a series, that if this book is good, they need to be sure that it wasn't a fluke, so that the follow-up is equally got to be as good, if not better.
Yeah.
And so, realistically, you've got to have 2-3 books out in that chain before it even goes anywhere. And so, there's a lot to do.
Sometimes that doesn't even matter. With the Last Kingdom, which I've just been watching, Bernard Cornwell's like, no, I've got other books. They're like, no, we kill it after 5 seasons. But I've got other books. No, it's fine. 5 seasons will do. That's it. That's what you get in. I think they're going to make a movie afterwards. I think it's kind of like, there's more. Why is it ended now? There's more. They're going to do a movie. I do like a good movie adaptation. And again, I like a good book. I remember I watched they took the movie Constantine, which obviously came from the comic book, but they wrote a novelization of it. And I remember I was a fan of the comic book. I loved the Keanu Reeves movie to an extent for a different reason, and then read the book. And I was kind of like, that wasn't too bad. But sometimes it's good to have your own visual going on in your head, isn't it? As you're reading it, you're playing your own version of the movie in your head.
Well, yeah, because when you're writing something, you're visualising it anyway, and so it's far easier to write a screenplay than to write a novel, because of course the novel has to have a lot more intrinsic detail, and it's a lot easier to show things, of course, in a moving picture, and it's something that I think anyone who writes can aspire to, but realistically, it would be a long way from that. I mean, interestingly, if you know this or not, but 97% of the world's authors, signed or otherwise, published or otherwise, 97% of the world's authors sell under 1,000 books a year, and that tells you how difficult it is to make a living and get an interest in your works. And so, I'm already in the top 3%, and I drive a little van, and so it's you've got to try and look at things and think, right, this is the break even. If this is my job, this is what I'm doing full time, this is now my career, then you have to break everything down in terms of all of the costings and say, right, so I have an average wage a year, I need to sell X amount of thousands of books. And so for me, you're talking in the region of 12 to 13,000 books. But that would put you in the top 0.0001 or 5 of the world's authors actually to hit those sort of margins. If you hit those sort of margins, certainly if you get up to 20,000, my view is if you sell 20,000, why can't you sell 40,000? Because if 20,000 people have bought this title and think it's good, then it's either good or it isn't.
But this is why we need to get you at festivals and stuff. So that
absolutely, and then of course you can get an agent, and so I don't have an agent, and but once you hit those sort of margins, then an agent will certainly come on board. And then when you're talking about adaptations of things, that's an intrinsic.
You get someone dressed up as a cat walking around attacking people.
Will that sell it?
Yeah.
Is that going to get me a Hollywood deal?
Well, people will be talking about it, won't they? There's crazy cat.
Well, they'll certainly talk about it. There'll be restraining orders. Just we don't want anything to do with this, this guy and his friends. Yeah.
Walking around jam stores and knocking jars off the table and stuff. Climbing up on top of marquees and refusing to get down. I don't know.
I posted something the other day. I don't know if you saw it, which was a cat version of Paranormal Activity, and it's absolutely hilarious. So they got the scenes from the film.
I saw that opening the door and stuff.
Knocking the glass over it, and it's. I watched that too many times. It was just so funny.
I saw a video on Instagram yesterday. Apparently, somebody's proved that there's ghosts because they saw it on camera. I was like, you've conveniently got CCTV in many different angles around your bedroom, sir.
Yeah. Why are you doing that?
Yeah. It's a bit,
we'll check his hard drive. Yeah. Before he's arrested.
I hope we can get certainly get Shrewsbury behind you, because obviously this book is set in Shrewsbury, and you're from Shropshire, you're here, and it's a local independent thing that can go on and serve the town well. So
there's even a map. I mean, it certainly shouts out about the beauty of this town, and it's set in Shrewsbury and North Wales. And so even at the end of this new edition, there is a map of the United Kingdom and Ireland, and it's got a big circle in it with an arrow that says Shrewsbury. So when you go,
London.
and London isn't even mentioned. London is everything seems to be so London-centric in this country, and so. And I said to you beforehand, when you travel abroad and say, well, where are you from? Shrewsbury. Okay, where's that? Shropshire. Where's that? Close to Wales. Is that in England? No, that's offensive. That's offensive to every Welsh person you can think of. How far is it from London? 150 miles. Oh, so you're close to London then. So it's just, right, so London's not on the map. Shrewsbury's identified on the map. And so is Welshpool and a couple of other places.
You can't just nip to London for a cup of tea. I'm just going to nip round, put the kettle on. It's not, doesn't work.
Well, yeah, that's right. And just, drop in Buckhouse and, have a cup of tea, and everyone does that. Possibly not with Prince Andrew, but everyone does that, right?
This is insane. And do you know what? It goes without saying, when you talk about content of any kind, whether it's books, whether it's movies, movie production, whether it's like things like the podcast, radio, whatever it is, there seems to be London and then the rest of the UK. Yeah. That's it. And there's a lot of talk at the moment. This is the reason why I was on Jim Salverson's shows, because they're talking about hyper-local podcasts, because they're really important. If you can make something successful outside of London, you're doing a great job. That's the way the world sees it, and it's nuts to think about.
It just sounds ridiculous. And certainly because I am originally from the southeast. I moved up here in, giving away my age now, 1990. But when you go down south, as soon as you get past coming back up the Watford Gap, you are officially up north. And that's you are up north.
Then you can put gravy on your chips.
Right, and it's very grim up north. Yeah, and that's kind of how it's seen. And with everything being so London based, I just thought no. When I was writing the original version, I just thought no, I'm not going to do that. So I don't think London even gets a mention.
Good. Good. To our listeners in London, if you are there, we love you, really. We love you all. Well, Kevin, I love chatting to you. I always do. It's always great. And
there wasn't any swear words.
No, there wasn't any swear words.
There wasn't any swear words this time.
We didn't swear at Pod Aid, did we? I think we got away with it.
No, we got away with that, but I must try harder next time.
By the way, I need to come clean about come clean. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? I am struggling. It's just me at the moment, kind of running everything. We've got Phil, who helps me out with the shows every now and again, and photography, but it's a lot, an awful lot. So Pod Aid is going to be very, very difficult for me to do this year. But then somebody mentioned to me that we could do it biannually, and I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. We can do that then.
You raised a few quid.
We raised quite a few. It's just a lot to take on. It's a lot.
It was a 24-hour broadcast, wasn't it?
24-hour.
Yeah.
The teams are sort of slimmed down a bit now, so there's less of us, especially over here in the UK. I feel like I could get a team together, but it just affected me so much that as much as I want to bring it back, it's gonna be quite difficult. So we're looking at doing that next year now. I was really upset to come to that conclusion, because I really want to do it again, but I mean, you never know. I'm not saying no, but that's where I'm leaning at the moment. Yeah.
Well, it is such a lot of work goes into doing these things, and making the right decisions. Mm-hmm. Who'll be your charity next time?
Oh, Lincoln Davis, always Lincoln Davis. I love them. Yeah. I think they're great at what they do, because nothing good ever comes of cancer. I mean, does it? Are the survival stories that make people stronger? Possibly, but cancer's never good, is it? No, so what they do is fantastic. So
yeah.
And after meeting people in the Lincoln Davis Centre, the actual ward itself, and how wonderful they are, and how up against it they are at the moment with funding and stuff, they do a great thing. So, Kevin, where can people find the second edition of the book? And do you encourage people to buy the first edition as well, or is it just the second?
I don't encourage, which is a strange thing for an author to say. I don't encourage you to buy that book, but in actual fact, I've now put it out of circulation. So it's now although there are some copies out there, they will fade away. So it's released worldwide on the 26th and
26th
of March, and it's already available for pre-sale. I may have said at WHSmith and Waterstones. I'm just working something out with Amazon, but it's also going to be available in independent stores as well.
Internationally, can people buy this? Obviously,
yes,
if it works out with Amazon,
it will be. I'm doing a couple of different deals. There's still a couple of things to work out with Amazon. But there's also another major print house distributor who I think I'm going to give the rights to everywhere else outside of the UK. And so I'm just negotiating that one. But if I do that deal, then that means you can find it on Nook, iTunes, Barnes & Noble, and all those major stores in the States and elsewhere. So
fantastic.
So yeah, they're still working on that one.
We'll have to try and get a copy to Bruno because he's still like, oh, you got a copy and I didn't. So I'll have to try and get a copy to him. But I'll send him one in a box.
He can open his wallet and buy one.
Yes, he can. Yes, Bruno, you're listening. Buy a book. Right, Kevin, always a pleasure to speak to you. Yeah. Thank you to Nerdy Cafe as well for coming and letting us come and do this thing. If you're out in a town and you're wondering what can I do with the kids that's a little bit different, come to Nerdy Cafe. It's like £4 each, I think it is, but for that £4 you can sit here all day, play as many games as you like. They do great food, great drinks, and it is actually a really fun day. We played this board game. I'm trying to look for it now. It's called Ghost Fighting. It's there, Ghost Fighting and Treasure Hunters. And we were whooping and oh my god, we're going to get out of the house, we're going to win, and it was really exciting. So
there are so many games here. I didn't even realise there's like a Back to the Future game. There's a Jaws game.
Yeah. They got everything here. I mean, whether you want to play Jenga, whether you want to play Monopoly, they got loads of different types of Monopoly. But there are loads of games to just come and try. One tip I would make actually is if you Google a few board games, and then learn the rules before you come here. And you know what you want to play, saves a bit of time. There's also a game as well. It's going to in an luminous green box. It's called Don't Get Got, and I just grabbed it randomly, and it's a game you can play whilst you're playing other games because you have all these missions to complete whilst you're doing other things. And you get given this wallet with all these missions, and you can spend hours trying to complete these missions.
Well, I noticed there's a game over there called Great Buns.
Great Buns.
Great Buns.
Yeah. Designed by Alex White. It's not designed by Alex White. It was a joke. Right, guys, check out our website too, which is the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast.co.uk. All of our content is available on there. You can press play and you can listen to the podcast directly off our website. That's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. If you need a website, I don't know, maybe if you're selling Etsy, if you've got a book, if you've got a business, if you've got an event, whatever it is, Web Orchard will make the perfect website for you. So check out Web Orchard. Right, let's get out of here. Thank you very much for chatting to me.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you again.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.